very important to also realize that our definition and our view of innovation has also innovated, if I can use that word, over the last 10 or more years. Historically, innovation was often thought of as a specialized improvement in products and processes done by a few specialized scientists inside the research laboratory of a company and organization. Today, we think about innovation in a much more broader perspective, about innovation happening not just within the product labs of companies, but across the entire organization, across multiple actors, including the government, including other non-governmental organizations, and also across society as a whole. And it's in this light, and it's in this flavor that we have created the Global Innovation Index to capture some of these broader holistic aspects of innovation. So when you ask the question, what does the Global Innovation Index capture? It captures two important elements. It captures the ability and the capability of an economy to innovate, and that is captured by 5, what we term as input pillars, around institutions, human capital and research, infrastructure, market sophistication, and business sophistication. So those elements represent the capability of an economy to innovate. We also capture the actual successes or the outputs in innovation of an economy. And we represent them by the 2 output pillars in the Global Innovation Index model, namely the knowledge and technology outputs and the creative outputs. So it is in this holistic view that you should consider these results. And these results are computed, prepared by a team that extends across INSEAD, WIPO, across the knowledge partners, Booz & Co., Alcatel-Lucent, and the Confederation of Indian Industry. And in particular, I think I would like to also mention that 2 of our key researchers, Daniela Benavente and Shasha Vincent, is here with us in the room. I'd like to thank them also for the contributions. Now, if you look at the entire result, we look at about 141 countries or economies in this year's edition, covering a broad majority, a high majority of the economies in the world. And we look at data from a number of different sources, and we take extreme care to make sure the data is as recent as possible, and we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that we have the broadest and the best data available, which of course varies from year to year. Now, this year we have also introduced 2 additional changes in the model to reflect the evolving nature of innovation. We've introduced a focus on online creativity, because we do believe that a lot of innovation today happens in the online space. We've also introduced an element on ecological sustainability, because we do believe that sustainability is an important part of the capability of an economy to innovate for the future. If you look at the rankings, we produce 2 rankings from the model and the analysis. One is the overall index, which is an average of the scores on the input 5 pillars and the 2 output pillars, and that average score is termed as the Global Innovation Index. You have the results with you in the press release, but this year we are very pleased to say that the top 3 countries are Switzerland, Sweden, and Singapore. You see among the top 10 a high predominance of European countries. At the same time, you see also both Asian economies like Singapore and Hong Kong, and also North American, with the United States at position number 10. We also compute another index, which is an efficiency ratio. And the efficiency ratio is the output divided by input. It is not the average. It is essentially showing how efficiently is an economy transforming its input capability into innovation outputs. And this is interesting because the results in the efficiency ratio are very different. The top 3 economies on the efficiency ratio are China, India, and Moldova. And there you have a mix of both high-income economies and also low-income economies in the top 10 rankings of the efficiency ratios. China, as we'll see later, has been doing extremely well in the overall rankings. Now, if you look at some of the overall results from this year's study, you do see that the high-income economies dominate, and high-income economies do tend to have a significant lead around the various elements of innovation, capability, and innovation outputs as compared to other low-income or middle-income economies. At the same time, what you do see are some interesting changes, interesting trends in some of the middle-income and low-income economies also pushing the innovation frontiers. One example is China, which is ranked at position number 5 on the technology and knowledge outputs. So it's a very critical element of knowledge production, and China did extremely well on that element. If you look at India also, it's a low-income economy, but it's ranked number 10 on the creative intangibles. So it's doing very well in terms of creating new innovative business models, new innovative models using some of the capacities in the economy. Now, one of the concerns we have identified in the report is the tendency in some economies to perhaps slow down the rate of investments in research and development inside their own businesses and governments. And we feel that this is of some concern because if one slows down the rate of investments in innovation, it is not often easy to pull back and recreate the same kind of momentum once the current crisis or the crisis disappears or at least becomes less accentuated. So it is very important to maintain the rate of investments in innovation if one wishes to emerge from this crisis on a stronger footing and also wishes to become more competitive in the future. In this case, we see that some countries have increased their business R&D spending. Turkey, Slovakia, Korea, Poland, Ireland, Hungary, and Portugal stand out as economies where the business R&D spending, in fact, has increased in the last few years. As Francis mentioned earlier, we do believe that linkages across the various actors in the innovation ecosystem is very important. And we have a number of more in-depth studies looking at how linkages happen across different actors and how different economies in the world, be it in the Middle East, be it in India, in Asia, or in Russia, are looking at the innovation ecosystem. So I'd like to encourage you to look at the chapters that accompany the data production, the data analysis in the report that go into more depth on the linkages in the innovation ecosystem. We also see that inside Europe, there is a very clear differentiation or some kind of a gap emerging on the innovation capability, innovation results between Northern Europe and Southern Europe. A good news is that some of the Eastern European countries are emerging as fast learners and approaching their levels of performance, improving them significantly. You see in North America some signs of weaknesses in some variables, and we do caution that these economies have to invest in some key fundamentals that can improve their innovation capacity further and sustain their performance in the next few years. We do see that in some of the BRIC economies, there are some areas of weaknesses, at the same time some areas of strengths, and we do recommend that the BRIC economies continue to invest in innovation, the innovation infrastructure, because they have to both realize their potential and at the same time the world is expecting more from them in terms of driving overall growth and consumption in the world. As a final comment, I would like to mention that innovation is a changing phenomena, is changing definitions are being applied to innovation. Measurement of innovation is a difficult challenge, at the same time the challenge that we all have to address. If not, policymakers don't have the right level of data and a framework to analyze and to make the right decisions. So we do hope that this Global Innovation Index provides the right element of support to policymakers worldwide to be able to benchmark, to be able to learn, and to be able to further improve their own decision making. Thank you.